Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Toni Luhti from Platform of Trust, and I'm going to share right now some of the learnings, what we have learned during the past couple of years about creating data business for companies and what kind of mistakes or pitfalls you may have on the way. So let's start from the market status. I guess that you already know the platform thinking in general, but let's think about a little bit further here, and let's start from the amount of data, because everybody seems to talk about data. Everybody thinks that data is new oil and whatever metaphors you might use, but it's known that we are generating much data per second, per day, per person, per country, or whatever, and we are all keen how we can utilize the data. So if we are generating in general at least 1.7 megabytes of data per person per second, it's a huge amount of data that we can actually use for some business purposes as well. But anyway, at the same time, less than 0.5% of all data is actually used or analyzed. And most of the companies are still saying that, hey, we have plenty of data, but actually they don't. And these companies, these few companies around the world who have a lot of data, they say that they want to have more of the data. So this is the kind of the context what we are talking about. Everybody's talking about the data, but most of the companies don't have data, and they who have data, they want to have more data. And during last year, 2019, there was over 4 billion new devices connected to internet, meaning that there is a lot of these smart sensors and so on, and they are all producing data. And the data amount that are produced every year is increasing heavily. So right now is the right time to start to collect the data. But then you will face a problem that it was researched that one integration is costing about around 15,000 euros. And then at the same time, it's going to take 20 to 30 business days to make it happen. And all these different data vendors and different system vendors and providers, they have their own data models. So you need to actually make the data compatible and so on, so that you are able to use it. And if you're buying, for an example, artificial intelligence solution, it means that you need to make the data compatible regardless of the vendor or regardless of the sensor type or regardless of the standard type what they're using, because you need to get all the data for the AI solution. And if you're going to spend 15,000 euros for each integration, what you're supposed to do to get all the data, you're gonna fail on your business case, right? Because if you're gonna buy 15 euro or 2 euro sensor from Amazon or Alibaba or something else, and you're gonna spend 50,000 euros to integrate these new service sensors to your existing business environment, you're supposed to have a pretty good business understanding what you can do with the data, so that you can actually create some value and calculate return on investment and everything else, all these kind of business measurement and KPIs, what you need to do, also for the business data businesses as well. So this is pretty much the situation on the market, but let's next focus on where the companies are typically starting their data business or digital business overall. So I'm saying that how you should start instead of how you are typically starting, because most of the examples what we are using about the digital business disruptors or data business disruptors are coming from the global challenges or new technologies that are quite challenging for the most of the companies to understand actually what is going on the market and how we can do the same than what Netflix is doing or Spotify is doing, or all these kind of global success stories what the consultants are using as an examples for the local firms. So from that point of view, when you are hearing these stories that Microsoft and Amazon and whatever companies are using the digital technologies and they are using data, Google for an example, how these local firms in your country, on your industry can do the same. So it's quite challenging, and impacting heavily when you are making the success with the new solution. But the fact is that with this kind of a data collection business where you need to have all the data available so that you are able to create some new understanding, actually the thing what you're supposed to do is to start with the internal needs. You know your business, you know your environment, you know your customers, and you need to use that knowledge as a base to utilize the data better. Not hunting these global challenges or starting from the megatrends like an artificial intelligence or whatever. If you don't have a knowledge or if you don't know how to use the artificial intelligence, it doesn't make sense that you are making the purchase for that solution without the data, because the data is actually the fuel for your artificial intelligence or machine learning or digital twin or whatever. And the data can be used on those solutions to solve your problems. But if you don't know the problem and if you don't have the business case for it, it doesn't make sense that you are starting from the top right end on this slide, because what you need to do is understand your internal needs, customer needs, and then your network needs. You can serve all these with your data in a much easier way and create much more bigger impact in a much more faster than all of the competitors who are starting from the wrong end. And with this kind of understanding, you need to make the business decisions, not the technical decisions, in order to start the digital or data related businesses, even though these terms, they have a technical echo in them. You know, whenever you are talking about data or technology or digitalization, you will actually invite CDOs and CTOs on the table to discuss about the technologies, but they actually don't matter if you have a business need for them. It really doesn't matter what kind of a cloud solution you are using if you are solving a business problem for your customers, right? So it makes a lot of sense. And what we have noticed that typical start where the companies are starting is exactly how I just described. So most of the companies are, you know, making a purchase for AI or machine learning or VR or whatever. Then they will start to think, hey, I have the most sophisticated, the fastest AI solution, with the best algorithms, but I don't have a data. So then people start to think where I can get the data and what must be in it. And then whenever you are seeing the price tag for the integrations, then you will say, okay, let's do only the necessary integrations. Let's not take all the data. Let's just take the data what we think that we need. With limitless amount of data, you can do a new understanding, but with this kind of comprehensive look for your data, when you have all the data from your business and customer environments available for you, and you're using the AI to make the knowledge for you, and then, you know, in order to generate more wise business decision from the data, you are actually getting competitive knowledge, right? Because when you have a long relations between different factors, not just direct factors that are impacting your business or customer satisfaction or whatever, you need to understand also the indirect factors, why something did happen. Because of these factors, you are able to make much more better decisions and actually pretty much create scenarios for the future so that you can actually be ahead of your company, not to look to the back mirror from the data. And like I said, typically these discussions related to the technical standards or whatever, and they will fail. Every time they will fail. And the platform, you know, thinking instead of this point-to-point integration, that's definitely what you're supposed to do. But what kind of tools you have to evaluate the business case for the data? Do you really understand the value of your data? Do you know who can benefit from your data? And do you know if you can get all the data available for you and make the business decisions based on these data factors? Do you really understand the value? And that's the point where you need to focus on. What data you must have in order to create more value or capture value or serve your customers better. And from this point, you will start to understand the business side of your data, not the technical side, as it typically goes. And as a bottom line, does it really matter which cloud environment you are using if you are serving the customers better? It doesn't, right? So And with the data and with these global modern megatrends, what we are talking about most of the time, like API ecosystems or API economy, data economy, ecosystem business model, platform economy, or whatever, you can combine all these in a smart way if you are starting from the business decisions. But if you are starting from the technical decisions, you will actually end up in a discussions. What on earth of these 4 billion new devices I supposed to connect? Which of these devices are going to win the game? Because in next upcoming years, you cannot know how many better sensors there will be, how many cheaper sensors there will be. And when you're doing the 15,000 euro integration for a one device, you're gonna be in a vendor lock, technical vendor lock for these systems or devices or sensors or whatever. Because of the vendor locks, you are actually decreasing the flexibility of your business. So, because of these times when the technical development is faster than ever, can you really make a business decisions that are actually decreasing your business model flexibility? Well, you cannot, because in 3 years with that stupid technical decisions right now, you can actually be much more incompetent to change your existing business for the future customer needs and so on. So with this kind of understanding, I'm going to leave you with a summary of my thinking here. So I'm using this kind of metaphors here. So the business cannot be the prisoner of technologies, meaning that all these technical discussions, platform discussions, and API discussions must be led by a business owner, must be led by a business decision makers, not the technical persons. And instead of creating at least any kind of point-to-point integrations or any kind of vendor locks when you cannot actually change something what you have integrated, you cannot decrease the flexibility of changing your business model. Meaning that then you're gonna do only the necessary data integrations and get only the necessary data. You are not getting all the data. So then you cannot actually do the forecast for the future because you have limited amount of data available. It means that you will have a limited amount of scenarios, limited amount of decision support. So from that point of view, the only smart thing to do is start to collect all the data and start to make a business environment that actually supports all these major players, not just one, not just two. And from that point of view, you are actually able to gather all the data regardless of the vendor or standard, and with that way support your business model change capabilities, and also technical vendor locks are gone. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Jarkko Moilanen. I'm giving a presentation about getting rid of integration tools. And this is a solution built in Platform of Trust, in which I actually work as a Chief Development Officer. So everyone hates integrations because that's something that normally takes a long time, and it actually costs you a lot of money. And that's why people often want to get rid of the integrations. So, but you can't completely get rid of the integrations because the data must flow anyway. It might come from two APIs, it might come from databases, integrations, and so on. So you will eventually have anyway some kind of integrations. The question is what kind of integrations and how you actually build those integrations. That is the question. And in our model, which we have developed in the Platform of Trust, we can actually offer 75% cheaper way and 66% faster way of doing any kind of integrations. And the people ask us often why and how. So I'm going to tell you why and how. So in this presentation, we will focus on two sides of integration. In our platform, data comes in as an inbound data flow. It comes through the integrations from various data source systems, such as IoT solutions and so on, from different buildings and environments and so on. That's inbound data flow integration. And then on the other end, when it actually goes through the platform where the data is harmonized, to be utilized easily in different kind of applications and AI and so on. It goes out. So it's an outbound data flow. And again, there you need to make another integration. I will focus in the inbound data flow integration mostly, and just briefly touch the outbound data flow integrations as well. But the general idea is that integrations do not need to be technically driven or even technical person's agenda, but we will have business people compatible integrations on both ends of the data value chain. That is the core idea. And when we talk about data value chain, this is what it normally is. So in the picture on the left side of the screen, you can see sensors at the bottom. That's the hardware layer where, at least in the IoT world, you have sensors collecting information, and that information is collected to some kind of data source system provided by different vendors like Siemens and Schneider and so on. And then you need to have some kind of integration layer and to make the data actually easily consumed and harmonized, and the interoperability is added there. Then you need to do the harmonization, and then you need to provide the harmonized data out. You will need currently to provide APIs. And these APIs are used by applications, AI, analytics, VR, AR solutions, and so on. And then eventually the data goes to people, who are the decision makers and app users. So this is the data value chain. And in this part, we don't do everything in our platform. Our integration solutions and everything doesn't cover all the aspects of it. So we cover the product-based APIs, harmonization layer, and integrations. And our partners actually build the applications on top of the data products that we provide. And they also provide the data source systems and sensors even. So we can cover the whole value chain, but our piece of the cake is not everything. So again, 75% cheaper, 66% faster way to integrate any API-driven data source than the traditional integration approach. That is the value proposition we're talking here. So how? In our opinion, less than a week is enough for any kind of integration within given permissions, and it has to have an API and so on. So traditional way, it actually costs you 15,000. It lasts for 30 days, so it's a month-long process at least. You need to do the maintenance additionally, and it brings additional costs. And you will not traditionally get the harmonized data out of the integration. But in our solution, the cost is 5,000. When we say that it's 7 days, that's enough. Maintenance is included in the platform fees, and the harmonizing of the data flow is always included. So that's the basis for the calculations for 75% and 66%, which was given previously. But again, the question is how. So in the heart of the integration is the connector component, which is sitting between our platform and the data source system, which is in this case is the data hub connected to different kind of sensors, and the data hub has an API. And our partners actually build the connectors on customer needs. And building this connector takes that 7 days maximum. And in that connector, it enables the data transfer between data source system and our platform, but it also does the harmonization of the payload when it actually comes in native format from the data hub, from the data source system. It has to be harmonized, and that is done also in the connector component. Those are the main functions of the connector component, and that is how all the data source systems on the inbound data flow are connected to our platform. And again, we have multiple partners building these connectors based on customer needs. So the more integrations we do, the more connectors we build, the less you need to do, because those are reuse-driven components. Each of these connectors is integrated to one data source system. So for example, the Schneider electric system, or Siemens, or Cosify or some other data source system. One connector per one data source system type. But these connectors can be configured so that it is reused on different instances of the data source systems. So we don't need to build any customer-specific integrations. And on top of that, one connector can support endless amount of data products. And data product here is, for example, the CO2 values in one building in every room of that building. So you're getting CO2 level information from one building. That's a data product, for example. It can be noise levels, it can be occupancy levels, it can be humidity, different kind of things, and those are data products. And these connectors actually support endless amount of these different data products or measurements. And we can extend the connector capabilities to support more and more data products based on customer needs. We don't need to know every detail, every data product in advance, but we can extend the existing connectors to support more and more data products. And that enables the low cost and the speed that we actually promise. So, and that is the worst case situation, that you need to build the connector. But more and more often, the connector component already exists in our marketplace and in our solutions, and integration in those cases is like 15 minutes or less. And the amount of these connected or integrated data source systems is growing all the time, every week. And on the left side, you can see a couple of those as an example. And you can see the variety of solutions that data source systems we already have at the moment. So far we've been talking about inbound data flow, so data coming into the platform, and as I mentioned, this connector component is in the heart of it, and it takes like 7 days to actually build a connector for any of the data source system, as long as they have an API. And these new capabilities are added every week to the platform. And we call this process and everything, building of these connectors, as a connector engine, which is driven by the partners, as it was discussed previously. Now, the data is coming in, data flow, inbound data flow is coming, and in the platform and in the process, we actually harmonize the data flow. We have provided the productized APIs to access the data in similar data schema format, regardless of the data source system. And we provide tools for business people to create data products out of the inbound data flow. Now, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are two types of integrations in our platform. One is the inbound, and the second one is the outbound. Now, more and more of the applications built on top of API, on top of data, are built with no-code and low-code platforms, such as MS Power Apps. There are different kind of platforms and applications for no-code tools, but Microsoft provides one example. And the idea is that even in these cases, you should never be mandated to do any kind of integration work anymore. You just take the data products from our platform, and those can be used easily by doing some configurations only, and that's it. You don't do any additional integration in the old sense, or as we have understood integration as a technical solution. Now it's a business people's configuration task, and that's it. And same goes for these different kind of other outcomes or outbound data flows. So you want to use the data product flow in Power BI templates. You want to feed the data to some kind of AI solutions. You want to use game engines to actually make VR and AR solutions, and you want to feed the data in real time to these virtual reality solutions, and so on. The options here are basically endless, but the idea is that you don't need to do additional integration. We as a platform enable you to use the data products out of the box in these outbound data flow solutions. So In brief, Platform of Trust offers business people compatible integrations on both ends of the data value chain. So inbound data coming in without any huge amount of integrations, but mostly only configuration of existing solutions, and in the outbound solutions, again, use the data as easily as possible in business people's tools without the need for any kind of technical people to be involved. That's it. And to make it a little bit more attractive, if you become a premium customer to the platform, we provide the first missing integration for free. And keep in mind that premium customers will be given all the existing connectors in their use immediately. So basically, you can get all of the capabilities into use immediately. But sometimes there might be some system still that we haven't integrated yet, and we will provide for you that if you take the premium customer package. Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Panu Pitkänen. I come from Platform of Trust. We are a data harmonizing platform, so our goal is to speed up the growth of the emerging data economy market. Today, my topic is why universal information model is a key to success in data economy. When I talk about information model here, I'm talking about semantic models, so-called ontologies. Ontology is a word that our marketing director is saying that I should not use because she's saying it's so difficult to understand, but I defy her a little bit and use a couple of first slides to explain what is an ontology. So in a nutshell, ontology is human understandable and machine readable model of anything. It can be a building, a smart city, a human identity. It can be anything that can be modeled. The key thing about ontology is that it defines all the essential terms and concepts and how they are related to each other. So that's the purpose of ontology. So these are the related terms. So ontology is in the middle, and knowledge graph is the word that Google is using for their ontology. Ontology is a kind of a classification system, and it's related to taxonomies, and it's closely related to the semantic web. It comes from that approach. So usually ontologies are developed for certain domain. So very often that is an industry. All of these 15 industries have their own ontologies. And sometimes ontologies are developed for much more narrow field, for music or for wine or films or things like such. So these ontologies, they work really well inside their own domain because that's where they develop for. So construction ontology is really good when you are constructing buildings, but it doesn't work really well in real estate. Even though there are many similar concepts, there are still differences that much that they don't work together. They are not compatible. And this is a problem. If you think about yourself as a consumer, if I think about my every day, my life intersects with almost all of these industries. And still the ontologies are in the silos and not compatible with each other. So this is another real life example from Platform of Trust. So we are modeling the full life cycle of a building. So it starts from the architect's table when the architect designs the building, and it could start even further from the manufacturer when the elements of the building are being manufactured. Then they are purchased. They are bought from somewhere and transferred to the construction yard. And in the construction yard, the building is being constructed. It becomes a real estate, but it doesn't stop there. Then starts actually the most valuable part of the cycle is the maintenance, because it takes so long time, easily 100 years for a building, and it should be more. And then in the end, the life cycle, the last part of the life cycle is recycling and reusing some part of the elements. So wouldn't it be nice if there was just one universal information model that would combine all of these industry ontologies? So this is the approach of platform of trust. We're not focusing in any of these industries. Our focus is in the companies that are using data, companies that want to commercialize their data. So they come from all of these industries. And yes, so any of these information models can be mapped against our universal information model to make them compatible. Okay, now I'm going to explain you the network effect. Essentially, it's just a matter of human mind, because for human minds it's really difficult to understand the exponential growth. So Bell Telephone understood this already in the early 1900s when they gained a monopoly in the US telephone market. So their key finding was this network effect, and they understood that if they buy all the small regional telephone carriers, they can merge them and build this nationwide monopoly of telephone networks. So if you have 2 phones, there's only 1 connection. With 5 phones, there's 10 connections, and with 12 phones, you get already 66 connections. So it grows exponentially. And this is the formula for it. And yeah, with the 10 telephones, you have 45 connections, and with 100 telephones, you have almost 5,000 connections. So this network effect, it can be applied for data-driven innovations, because innovations come often from combining data from different sources. And more sources you have, the exponentially more possible data combinations of 2 you can have. And in this innovations context, you don't limit to combinations of 2. Actually, I believe that if you have combinations of 3 or more, those innovations are more probably even more valuable than the combinations of 2. And in generally, you could say that combining unexpected data, that creates the biggest innovations, because nobody has thought that before. So that's that way you make the groundbreaking innovations. So this is already my last slide to summarize what I've been telling you. So my question was that why universal information model is needed. So it is needed to make the data compatible with each other, and then you can make digital models of anything, and you can automate things and build AI solutions. But in the end, it all comes down to this, that with the universal ontology, you can apply the network effect in data economy, and that will skyrocket the innovation. Thank you. That was what I wanted to say. Thanks.